What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a new shift. It is episode 118 with Francisco Rojas, and it's pretty much the trade deadline preview. We're going to talk about what deals have already happened thus far. Seems like it's going to be a wild deadline. I think last year's was a lot of fun too. Now, there wasn't necessarily that one big name like we're going to get this year with Tarek Skubal necessarily, but this year looks like Skubal's going to be on the move. I'll give you the latest from what Jeff Passan said a couple of days ago, pretty much what he had to say about the situation with Skubal in the latest. And I want to give you guys 5 deadline predictions, and one that I don't know if it's going to shock you. I think it would be pretty crazy. It seems like it's a deal that people are kind of like, oh yeah, I don't know if this team's going to do that for that player. It's a player that's having a career year, and he's leading the National League in slugging. Last time I checked, having career numbers. I think he's going to a team that maybe was linked to him, recently, but also at the same time, it seems like it's cooled down. I think it's going to happen. So we'll talk about that. Giving you my 5 predictions. And I want to talk about Harrison Bader crashing his scooter. So we'll talk about that as well. But I wanted to start with Bryce Harper and Don Mattingly, because this was pretty crazy situation. Now, some people, especially like when you're doing like locally, especially with players or managers, whomever people like to say like, well, and I've probably been in this camp in the past, like, oh, well, we're overdoing it or we're overblowing this. This Bryce Harper, Don Mattingly, Dave Dombrowski, this whole thing that happened this week in Philadelphia. First, I want you to take a listen. If you haven't heard this or if you haven't seen this online, take a listen to what Bryce Harper had to say on the prospect of needing more help at the trade deadline for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Do you think this is a lineup or a team that can beat good pitching in October? Because presumably, come October, you guys will see quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I think we need some help, But, I think we've proved, pretty much all year we've done a pretty good job. But, anytime you can, get some help in here and reinforcements, I think it helps.
Do you think that help would be best coming in the form of an arm or a bat?
I think both. I think obviously everybody knows what we need, so I think I've said it over the last couple of days. We need both.
You confident you'll get both?
I don't know. We'll see. That's a Dave question. So, we'll see.
So straight up says, like, yeah, we need some help. And doesn't say like, I think Cal Raleigh might have said recently, like, we maybe could use some help at the trade deadline, something to this extent. Maybe we can use help at the trade deadline, but it's going to come down to the core that they have over there in Seattle with, I don't know, maybe George Kirby gets moved, so maybe he's not a part of that core anymore, but you know what I mean? The Julios, the Dumpers, the Logan Gilberts, guys like that. Like, it's going to be up to that core for them to go win. And Bryce Harper didn't really say that. He just said, like, yeah, we're going to need some help. Like, yeah, we're going to need both a bat and an arm. So he had to say that. And then, of course, other players or the manager was going to be asked about this. Of course, this is what Don Mattingly had to say about the whole situation. This is about 2 minutes, so take a listen.
Bryce said last night that the game he thinks that the team needs a little bit of help at the deadline. Do you sense maybe guys thinking about that, or might that be on guys' minds, like as the deadline gets closer?
I sense Bryce thinking about it. I don't really sense anybody else thinking about it, honestly. And you've been through this. Guys want to be GMs, what you need, without a real understanding of where the organization is, exactly where its thing goes, not only this year but moving forward. So, again, players like being GMs and making calls and spending other people's money. So, let's let it go at that. I mean, Dave's been doing this a while. He's never really backed away from trying to get guys. We're trying to get better. You know, we're going to try to get better at the deadline. So leave it at that.
Are you bothered by what Bryce said?
Am I bothered?
Yeah.
No, I just don't like. I don't like it from the fact of what I've been saying, that you're saying that we don't like our players that are here, and I just don't. I think you're always trying to get better. You should always incrementally try to get better, no matter who you are. If you're the Dodgers, who've won 2 straight, they're trying to get better in different ways. We're in the same boat, right? You're always trying to get better, but when you say something about our team, then you're saying something about one of our players that you don't like.
Do you feel the need to talk to him and articulate that?
Not really. I mean, Bryce is Bryce. He's going to say what he wants. So I'm not really concerned about it. I just take it kind of with a grain of salt. And knowing how players are over the years, heard this. It's not the first time I've heard this. You know, we need. I always look at it like internally. You know, I got to get better. We got to get better, and that's simple as that.
So Don is kind of saying, hey, that's Bryce. Like, that's kind of what Bryce is. I don't really think the other players in the team necessarily, are relating to what Bryce is saying exactly in this situation. But going to be honest, man, I mean, I think this is up to Bryce Harper to have handled this a little better. Now, I think Donnie could have I think he elaborated too much. I think he could have just kind of nipped it in the bud and said, like, Bryce feels the way he feels. We got to do it with the guys here, blah, blah, blah. I think he could have done a little better of a job with that. But like at the end of the day, like, I mean, who knows how much longer Don has with this baseball team. Like, yes, the rest of the year, but sounds like it's probably going to be Alex Cora next year. It sounds like Dombrowski's really going to make a run for Alex Cora, because he didn't make it too much of a secret that they were going after Alex Cora just a couple of months ago when they fired Rob Thompson. So here's my thing, man. I mean, maybe this all goes back to Dave Dombrowski saying Harper wasn't elite in the offseason, and Harper wearing the not elite shirt and saying, doing like he did a couple of interviews right before the season started and said, didn't like what Dave said. And maybe this is Bryce clapping back at Dombo saying, like, go do your job, blah, blah, blah. We'll see. I just think Bryce could have said it better. And I think maybe Mattingly could have diffused the situation a little better. I think that everyone here is at fault a little bit. No one's perfect in general, but I don't think there's like, it should be 100% blame on Harp. It should be 100% blame on Don. Like, I think everyone in this situation could have handled it a little better, and all Harper had to do is throw in there that, we might need some help at the deadline, but it's going to be up to guys like me, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, the core that has been there for a long time. Even some of the guys that hasn't been there a whole, as long as them, like Christopher Sanchez or Jesus Luzardo. But you get the point that I'm making, is that Harper could have said, okay, this needs to be, at the end of the day, it's up to me. It's up to JT. It's up to Trey. It's up to the guys here in the clubhouse. But we could use a little bit of help at the deadline. That's all. That's all that could have been said a little better from this Bryce Harper and Bryce Harper situation with Don Mattingly and Dombrowski mixed in here, obviously, as well. But wanted to start out with that before I got to all the deadline stuff. So now let's get into it. The meat and potatoes. It's MLB trade deadline. And like I said, it's going to be ramped up right now for this to be a really, really crazy trade deadline. Will Mason Miller get moved? Will somebody like CJ Abrams get moved? Tarek Skubal definitely getting moved. It sounds like we'll get to that in a second. And just like which teams, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if you're looking at these standings, I mean, there's in the National League, as it currently stands, there's 6 teams within that last wild card spot. The Phillies right now hold the last wild card spot at 57 and 53. And then you've got from the Padres right there all the way down to the Reds at 4.5 back, who are 52 and 57. Has not been the most competitive Major League Baseball in 2026. So you got that with the National League, and then the American League, almost the same type of thing. Guardians and Twins right now with the same records, but the Guardians have a better run differential, so they're right now the third wild card spot. But then outside of that, you go from the Twins all the way to the Toronto Blue Jays, who are all within 4 games of that last wild card spot. So it is right now as it stands. I mean, there's teams that you think they're going to have that. There's teams that are saying, hey, like we're still in this, especially like the American League. I know the Rays have been awesome this year. The Yankees have been really good. And, but outside of that, the White Sox have been good, but the Red Sox got hot, obviously had that really long winning streak, but the American League is, I mean, it's still not like it's a super big juggernaut. National League probably, obviously a little bit better with the Dodgers, Brewers, and Atlanta, all with at least 65 wins. Dodgers and Brewers with both the best records in Major League Baseball. But man, it's just going to be really, really, really crazy to watch this trade deadline, which teams are going to be buying and which teams maybe are going to surprise us and sell. I mean, there's been rumors about teams and about which guys are going to go where, and there's reports like left and right what's going to happen. I'm and as a fan, I am all in for the chaos. Are you kidding me? This is what we want the trade deadline to be. Felt like last year was chaos, and I want as much chaos as possible, especially might be a lockout next year, which goes into this being a very chaotic Major League Baseball trade deadline. So I want all the chaos as a fan. I want all of it down to the very last second. That's what I want. And it's already been, there's been some action happening already over the last couple of weeks. I'll just point out the most significant ones, probably like 3 to 5 of the most significant ones that have happened in the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, even as late as today. So we'll go with Logan O'Hoppe and Chase Silseth. They go to the Texas Rangers. AJ Minter to the Minnesota Twins. Maybe it looks like the Twins are going to try to see if they have a shot in the American League. Minter, who's had success, he's obviously won a World Series with the Braves way back in 2021. Coming over from the Mets now. Mets were obviously they're one of the big sellers this trade deadline. They've already announced that. They announced that a couple of weeks ago. So Mets ship off Minter to the Twins. Nationals. This one is like one I didn't really see necessarily coming, and I still don't know how much I love this trade for the Boston Red Sox. I think Connolly Early is a really good young starting pitcher, but Connolly Early traded to the Nationals for Curtis Mead. I kind of like the trade for the Nats just because I think Early is a good young starting pitcher, but the Red Sox get Mead in return. A couple that happened today. Brewers trade for Bo Naylor. Almost said Josh once again. I was on Baseball Reference earlier, and I typed in Josh Naylor, and I was like, what am I doing? But because I know Bo well enough that I should be doing that, but Josh is, I don't know, Josh is almost he looks like a villain. Does he not like a superhero villain? Just saying. Now I'm going off the rails, but it's okay. Last one. Camilo Doval, who has been kind of mediocre for the Yankees since he came over there. The Yankees ship off Doval to the Pittsburgh Pirates for just a couple of prospects. So those are just some of the deals that there's been about 10 to 15 deals since the beginning of July, but just wanted to highlight some of the biggest ones that have happened over the last couple of days to week. So there you go. Some of the deals that have already happened before the trade deadline as I'm sitting here doing this, less than 48 hours away from the MLB trade deadline. So again, just kind of like an official preview, but preview light to a certain extent. Because because I do want to get to, again, that Bader thing. And I also want to get to some of the Hall of Fame, some of the guys that got into the Hall of Fame last weekend, because I haven't gotten a chance to touch on that. All right, 5 predictions. So these are just names I picked. And obviously, I'm going with the bigger names. I'm not going through like 30 to 50 predictions here. I'm only doing 5. I'm doing 5 of, I would say they're 5 of the bigger names at the deadline. The first 3 here, definitely probably the 3 biggest potential names, depending on what exactly happens. But as I'm sitting here, again, a couple of days before the trade deadline, Monday evening. So we'll go 5-1 of, big names here. Number 5, Kevin Gausman. Now, Kevin Gausman, I mean, it's crazy to think. You know what's weird about the Blue Jays? I just want to say this real quick. It's weird that the Blue Jays, just underwhelming season after, getting within a touch of the 2 outs away from winning that World Series. Just unbelievable. And just crazy, just crazy to think about that. And the Blue Jays are probably going to be sellers, is what it looks like. So Kevin Gausman, who I would say over like the last 5 years has been one of the better pitchers in baseball. We know about the sinker, one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last couple of seasons, or like 5-6 seasons since he went over to San Fran in 2020. Gausman, though, numbers haven't been as good this year, at least ERA wise. 4.51 ERA. Some of the underlying metrics still saying that he is still a pretty good pitcher, but right now, his K per 9 still like slightly up, still almost 10, but has a 4.51 ERA on the season. He's due to be a free agent upcoming, so he would be a rental depending on if whatever team wants to trade for him is willing to give him an extension. So is a rental for right now. And here's where I'm going with Kevin Gausman. I think Kevin Gausman's going to the Atlanta Braves. Feels like, by the way, former Atlanta Braves, so he'd be going back to Atlanta. So he once upon a time was a Brave after he went from Baltimore to Atlanta in 2018. So I have him being traded back to the Atlanta Braves. I think that the Braves who doesn't want Tarek Skubal, but I think the Braves have interest in Tarek Skubal, but I don't think they will have the deal to get it done. I think another obvious team has what it takes to get it done. There's a few teams there, I think, that have more enticing packages for Tarek Skubal. I don't think the Braves have that, and they know that. I don't see the Braves getting Tarek Skubal. I see the Braves going after Kevin Gausman because Gausman's probably one of the next names starting pitching wise on the market. So I have Gausman going to the Atlanta Braves. Next up, Luis Arraez, and this is there's a good amount of teams here that maybe could be potential fits depending on, you saw the Pirates are losing Ryan O'Hearn for like 6 to 8 weeks today. I was thinking Arraez maybe goes to Pittsburgh, but I don't know. Pittsburgh might want another bat with a little more power because they're going to be losing O'Hearn's he's like 14 to 17 home runs somewhere around whichever one, I forget which one it was, but he's got a good amount of power. O'Hearn can give you anywhere in the 20 to 25 homers. So I think the Pirates might go after somebody with a bit more power. And I think the Pirates will be buying at this deadline, especially you saw what happened with Duvall today. And they're going to try to take a chance on Duvall going back to what he was with San Francisco a few years ago. I have Luis Arraez going to the same division, sticking in the division. I have him going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks and Arraez can play. Obviously, Nolan Arenado is going to be sticking at third there, but I think Arraez can play all over the infield. He can also DH. The D-backs could use that. And Arraez currently now leading the National League in hitting as far as batting average goes. No, that's not everything. I think Arraez is a little overrated. Feels like a lot of the old heads, to be honest with you. I love Arraez because I think he's a modern day Tony Gwynn. That's fine. Like, have that. I like to watch Arraez play. I get it. Puts the ball in play. Good for baseball. Good for baseball fans. I get it. But Arraez a little overrated, but Arraez leading the National League in hitting once again. And I think he goes to the D-backs. D-backs right now do hold that second wild card spot. And it's not like you have to. I don't think it's going to take a huge haul for Luis Arraez. I would not think that. So I have the Arizona Diamondbacks trading for Luis Arraez. Next one. Now it's getting juicy. The last three here, you knew it was going to get juicy. Of course, I had to get juicy at some point. All right. Mason Miller. Juicy name, but not a juicy result that you might want. I think he's staying with the Padres. I think there was a report today from MLB.com that he's most likely going to stay put. Apparently, teams that are checking in that want relief pitching haven't even inquired about Mason Miller. Now, you never know what could happen in the next couple of days. You know, new reports happen. You're like, oh my gosh, well, maybe they're actually going to. I would say this. Mason Miller is obviously, he's a unicorn. He's unbelievable to watch. The numbers, ERA is 0.79 right now. Just what he does since he has gotten in Major League Baseball has been one of the best, I think, not just starting pitchers, just overall pitchers, the most exciting to watch. I'm always watching Pitching Ninja's Twitter page so I can go freaking watch Mason Miller if I can't watch him on MLB TV. So Mason Miller, I think, though, Mason Miller, Padres are still back in the race. They're there. And they're what? Right now, they are a game back of the Phillies, like I mentioned before. They're a game back of the Phillies in the wild card race. I think Mason Miller is staying with the Padres. Their relief pitching has been their biggest strength on the year. Do I think, anything can happen in baseball. The Padres a couple of years ago, that was a great divisional series that you got between the Padres and the Dodgers a couple of years ago. So I think the Padres, maybe, they're thinking, oh, we'll see. Let's get in the playoffs and let's see. Led by him, Morejon, they're the back end of that pen that has been one of the better in baseball thus far this season. I think Miller is going to stay put, especially after they traded him last year. I know Preller, honestly, with AJ Preller, you never know. You never know. So you never know. But I'm leaning this time. I'm leaning that Miller, they traded DeVries and a package for him and JP Sears last year. I think that Mason Miller, because of that probably maybe is in the back of their mind. Like, we just traded him last year. We don't need to trade him this year. Unless they're just, they get an exceptional overhaul for Mason Miller. Something like that. I don't even know did I use that term right? I don't know. You get it. I don't need to explain. Some sort of shocking package. I don't think they're moving Mason Miller. And by the way, I don't think a team for a relief pitcher, I'm not saying that Miller isn't awesome and he's not valuable like he clearly is, but I think a lot of teams aren't willing to, part with even a bigger package than they were able to get last year. The A's last year for Mason Miller. So Mason Miller, I have staying put. So that is juicy name right there. Number one. Number two, CJ Abrams. And do I necessarily think, is there a percentage chance of this 100% happening? Obviously not. There was a report recently that this team I'm about to name, actually, there's probably a small chance that probably a slim to none chance that CJ Abrams would go to this team. But I think it makes too much sense. Again, it might get weird. It might get freaky at this deadline because of the looming CBA and a looming lockout. It might get weird. I have CJ Abrams going to one of the best teams in baseball this year, the best record in the American League right now, a team that their deficiency on offense outside of Junior Caminero is home run hitting. I have CJ Abrams going to the Tampa Bay Rays. And I think that would be a really fun splash. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. I think the Rays have one of the best prospects, one of the best farm systems in baseball. I think it makes a lot of sense. Abrams to the Rays. And again, like I said, Abrams this year has surpassed last couple of seasons where it's been, pretty solid numbers, I would say, as a young player. I mean, 25 years old right now. If you're looking at those numbers last couple of seasons, solid, obviously something to build on. And he definitely built on it this year, man. 28 home runs, 83 RBI, both career highs by far. And again, full seasons, 144 games last year, 138 the year before that, 151 in his first full season in 2023. Hitting 290, on pace to have the best career batting average for himself in a season by far. Same thing with OBP, almost 370. Leading the National League in slugging, over 560. 929 OPS. He has not had an OPS in his career in these full seasons over 750. I think the Rays might be willing to pay a really big, it's going to take a really big package. I think the Rays are going to do it. And it's not like Abrams is a rental. He's a young player, not going to be a free agent for like 3 or 4 more years. I am saying C.J. Abrams is going to be a Tampa Bay Ray. The Rays are looking at this saying, again, with lockout coming, with their record right now at the American League, I think this is for them. Okay, this is a shot that we got to take. Maybe that's not necessarily, that'll be a little bit outside of what the Rays normally do. I mean, how often do they go for, potentially having one of the biggest deals at the deadline? Like, how often does that happen for that franchise? Not often, but it's probably the boldest prediction for me here by far. It's out of these 5 names here that I'm doing, I guess, which means for the next one, it's not going to be as exciting, but I'm saying Abrams going to Tampa Bay, and that's going to be big for them, as I think they're going to try to separate themselves from other teams in the American League. They have done that a pretty good job to this point, 65 and 45 right now. A couple of games in front of those Yankees, which is they're trying to pull away here the last couple of months. We're sitting here on August 1st. So Abrams, Tampa Bay Ray. Last one, Tarek Skubal. Now, I did want you to listen to what Jeff Passan had to say on SportsCenter a couple of days ago. This is what Passan had to say about Skubal, and if he's going to get traded, the latest on Skubal, this is what Jeff Passan had to say.
Jeff, you said we'd know by end of month whether Tarek Skubal will remain a Tiger. That was Skubal's last start before the deadline, so should he start packing boxes?
Yeah, Tarek Skubal is going to be traded. The Tigers haven't gone to teams that are interested in him and said as much at this point, but the expectation is that's going to happen within the next day or two. And frankly, everyone has been expecting it. When you see how the Tigers have played recently, and certainly their game Wednesday was a perfect encapsulation of their season. They understood that they needed to go on a really big run in order to have Tarek Skubal stick around, and they didn't do it. They're taking a healthy view of this. They understand that they have a lot of engaged teams right now. Teams that in particular are being cited by others as being the biggest threats, though, the Milwaukee Brewers, who have a tremendous farm system, and of course, Phil, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are the favorites at this point, and frankly have been since the possibility of Tarek Skubal getting traded first surfaced a couple of months ago.
So there you have it. Passan said he is going to get traded. So it seems like it is happening. Now, obviously, we got to see it to believe it, but at the same time, 99.9% chance Tarek Skubal is getting traded, unless there's something crazy last second. But it seems like the Tigers don't want to pay him, don't want to give him that extension. That's why it's obviously gotten to this point. And there you go. Tarek Skubal looking like he is going to be traded. And, oh, surprise, surprise. Of course, I'm going. Look, the Abrams one might have been a little bit surprise for you. Surprise, surprise here. Tarek Skubal is going to be an LA Dodger. I think it would be fun as a baseball fan if he went to the Brewers, because I think the Brewers have the next best package. No surprise there either. Duh. Like, it's been Dodgers and Brewers that have been the 2 names that have come down to the last couple of days here. Those are the 2 favorites. But as you've heard there, I think that the thing with the Dodgers is, like, the Dodgers have a better chance of extending him. Like, I don't think, I mean, you look at the list of Brewers pitchers that they have extended, or, Brewers players they've extended in the past or given big contracts to. I don't know, man. Skubal's going to probably get in the 400 millions range, long-term extension. I don't see the Brewers doing that. I can obviously see the Dodgers doing that. The Dodgers have one of the best farm systems in baseball. So does Milwaukee. But I think Skubal, the Dodgers have a better chance of extending him. And I don't think that, the Brewers don't have that history that the Dodgers clearly do. So Tarik Skubal is going to the LA Dodgers. Big whoop, big surprise. I know. But again, those 5 guys, Gausman to the Braves, Arise to the D-backs, Mason Miller to the Padres, CJ Abrams to the Rays, and then Tarik Skubal going to the LA Dodgers. No surprise there. Some other names to watch. I would say Zach Neto is a name to watch. Otto Lopez, I don't think the Marlins will trade him, but Otto Lopez, who again was leading the National League in batting average just like a couple of days ago. Now it's been surpassed by Arise, but Lopez is really a key to watch. George Kirby, who's been, I think I threw his name there earlier in this pod. Kirby's one to watch with Seattle. I mean, Seattle might be trying to flip players to get other areas of their team to get better. I would say Kirby's one to watch. Jeremy Pena from the Astros. Who else? Adley from the Orioles. Clay Holmes. A lot of those Mets players like Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver, Peralta. Peralta's one of the bigger names as well, I would say, even though he's not having the season that he has had in the past. And Emerson Hancock from Seattle as well, too. Younger, but the Mariners have had a plethora of starting pitching in the past. So we'll see. Yeah, those are just some of the names. But going to be a crazy deadline. I am really excited for it. Just a few more things before we get out. Congratulations to Jeff Kent. Congratulations to Carlos Beltran, and congratulations to Andrew Jones. I probably will just be honest with you. I don't like doing this, but I would still say 2 of the 3 were deserving to me. I think Jeff Kent had a really good career. He's Hall of really good to me. He's borderline with the Hall of Fame, but look, it is what it is. Kent got into the Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him, just because, obviously my opinion isn't the end all be all, clearly. And it's about those people that are voting in Cooperstown. Whether or not I agree with them, it is what it is. But congratulations to Jeff Kent. He gets into the Hall of Fame. And last thing I wanted to mention is, and congratulations to Joe Buck as well. Got the Ford Frick Award. Harrison Bader, my goodness, already had plantar fasciitis in one of his feet this year. I forget which foot it was. That has had him sidelined or, not on the field for the last couple of months. Not going and playing the rest of the season. You know why? Because he crashed a scooter into, I think it was into a fire engine. Crashed a scooter into a fire engine. Here he is. Unbelievable. And I think he had been seen having some drinks. I don't know. I don't want to put that out there like that, but I saw it on Twitter. I think there were reputable sources that said he had been seen drinking. This was around like 2 a.m. too. Weird injuries, right? Weird injuries. You had Devin Williams a couple of years ago punched in the locker. And then you had Edwin Diaz, the WBC, celebrating. Some other guys, I think, have gotten hurt celebrating. It's crazy stuff, man. Be careful on these streets if you're riding scooters. Or if you're not riding scooters. Maybe you're run over by somebody. Just be careful. But crazy stuff, man. Especially after the last 2 months he had last year for the Phillies. Bader was amazing. So, crazy, man. All right, I need to know predictions, man. That's going to do it for the trade deadline preview pod. I need to know predictions for 5 guys I named. Again, Gausman, I have him going to the Braves. Arise, I have him going to the D-backs. Mason Miller, staying with the Padres. Abrams, Rays, and then Tarik Skubal going to the Dodgers. Big surprise. I need to know predictions on those guys. Put them in the YouTube comments. I need predictions on other players that I've named or I haven't named. And give me like bold predictions. Give me bold ones. Who do you got going where? I want to know. And how excited are you for this deadline? You could tweet the shift. You could tweet me at Rojas_media_, and follow the shift on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, again, Twitter, obviously. So, and there's a Facebook group as well. So get in there For sure. All right, that will do it for me. I will be doing a trade deadline recap pod probably either I'm going to try to do it Tuesday or Wednesday. Busy on Monday after the deadline, but going to try my best to do something maybe the next day on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So that will do it for another episode of The Shift. It's been Francisco, episode 118. Talk to you guys soon.